But the reality of the matter is, when people grow up with an incredible amount of violence happening all around them and are told that it is just a regular part of existence, you cannot get them to take this instance of violence seriously after conditioning them into thinking that violence is a regular part of existence, when the victims of said violence are oftentimes poor people, marginalized people, helpless people, children. When that violence, for the first time ever, is directed at someone in a position of power, like Donald Trump. This is exactly what I said after Donald Trump got shot as well, when I saw so many people openly celebrating this. I repeated this take once again after the UHC healthcare CEO shooter as well. Violence, in the way that the media treats it, is only completely unacceptable when the victim is someone in a position of power. All other coverage of this kind of violence has basically played the role of normalizing this kind of violence and desensitizing the American public to the act of violence in and of itself. So the expectation that people are all of a sudden going to demonstrate decency and civility when a CEO is in the crosshairs of said unlimited violence is ridiculous, especially when this person, Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, is a perfect placeholder for all of the individualized violence that many Americans have felt, regardless of their color, demographic background, creed, or even wealth, level of wealth. Because even rich people get fucked over by healthcare in this country. That's how crazy the healthcare system is, the for-profit healthcare system is in this nation. Understand that. So what have we done in the days after Luigi Mangione?
Luigi Mangione is planning to waive extradition.
First, let's talk about him seeking to waive his extradition.
From Pennsylvania, where he was arrested. He now has a New York lawyer, and Aaron Katursky has the latest on the case. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, George. The suspected killer could be here in New York early this week. A murder charge awaits.
This morning, sources tell ABC News the accused murderer of United Healthcare Chief Brian Thompson is almost certain to waive extradition from Pennsylvania, where he was arrested a week ago after someone at an Altoona McDonald's recognized him.
Indications are that the defendant may waive, but that waiver is not complete until a court proceeding.
Law enforcement sources told ABC News a task force of FBI agents and NYPD detectives spoke to Luigi Mangione's mother the day before his arrest, after police in San Francisco informed them she had filed a missing persons report about her son, and the photo seemed to match. Sources said Mangione's mother told the New York investigators the person in the widely shared surveillance images could be her son. He's now charged with murder and other offenses. Sources said writings police seized from him suggest Mangione had been fixated on United Healthcare for months and gradually developed a plan to kill its chief executive. What do you do? One passage allegedly said, you whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. Detectives consider the writings a confession. A concern now is support for the attack across social media could encourage similar violence aimed at other healthcare executives. A threat assessment obtained by ABC News said the narrative supporting Mangione's targeted attack likely served to encourage like-minded individuals, particularly as Mangione continues to be viewed by the public as an American hero and sympathetic figure.
His attorney said he would plead not guilty to every charge he faces. But over the weekend, Mangione hired a new attorney here in New York, Karen Friedman Agnifilo. She used to be the chief assistant in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And guys, she used to supervise the prosecutor, who's now overseeing Mangione's case.
Okay, Aaron, thanks very much.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at Democracy.
So Ken Klippenstein was on Democracy Now! As well. But I'm gonna cut through it. I'm gonna cut through that commentary real quick and go to something that he wrote about recently that I think is very funny. So this kind of unlimited violence is causing ripples throughout American society. And those who have the most to lose are now panicking. And in the interest of defending those minority communities, CEOs I'm talking about, of course, if you couldn't figure that out, New York State is floating around a new initiative, an idea to soothe the fears of these panicked CEOs, the most important people in American society. Let's take a look at what their new initiative looks like.
Let's go now to the latest in the fallout from the murder investigation of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The office of New York Governor Kathy Hochul is convening a safety summit tomorrow between nervous business leaders and law enforcement. CNN has learned the safety concerns among executives are so widespread, New York State may create a special hotline just for CEOs to call in threats.
That's right. They might do a snitch hotline for CEOs to be like, excuse me, I laid off 30% of my workforce. And some of them who lost their livelihoods, you know, people with children, people with families, some of them who lost their health care, got very upset at me. I am now under threat. Can you please send the local law enforcement to pack up the unwashed masses at my doorstep? That's great. That's wonderful. I think we should definitely lean into this more. Real cyberpunk vibes here. The meeting is one of several signs that officials are trying to elevate the murder to a matter of domestic terrorism. Commenting on her conversation with Hochul, Weidel said that she wants to make sure that the state resources, specifically the domestic counterterrorism resources, are focused on being supportive, sharing information. If the last year has taught us anything, who are the scariest domestic terrorists in this country? Are they the white supremacist Nazis with manifestos that go and do unlimited violence on marginalized populations? No, of course not. It's gay, non-binary English majors with septum piercings that say Israel is kind of a meanie bobini state. Those are the real terrorists, and the counterterrorism resources must be used against them. And now we must expand the counterterrorism resources to other domestic terrorists. People who are angry about having their claims denied. People who are angry about having their insurance claims denied. Do you understand? Wonderful stuff. If you are in any way, shape, or form disruptive or critical of the pre-existing hierarchies that the media apparatus upholds as normal, you are a domestic terrorist, and you must be dealt with through the violent apparatus of the state. Incredible. This is where we're at. Yeah. This is where we're at. Something to remember. It's just straight up the Watchmen, dude. Here's what Donald Trump had to say about Luigi Mangione, by the way.
United Healthcare shooting, the shooting of the CEO in New York. Can you give us your thoughts about that? And what do you make of the reaction around the suspected shooter? Does that tell you anything about how people
I think it's a
healthcare?
terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done. It was so bad, right in the back. And very bad, thing like that, you can't believe that some people, and maybe it's fake news, I don't know. It's hard to believe that that can even be thought of, but it seems that there's a certain appetite for him. I don't get it. Yeah.
But it's not just that. Donald Trump and the mainstream media are almost entirely aligned on this. Here is Michael Smerconish doing what he does best once again, licking the boot on CNN. It wasn't enough that this was his initial commentary. CNN decided to dedicate a whole segment to him, talking about how angry he is that there was no memorial for Brian Thompson.
Slowed my gait as I passed a side entrance to the Hilton Hotel, realizing that this was the same day in the...
This is the second time Michael Smerconish is talking about this and the anger and the resentment that he felt as he walked past the Hilton where Brian Thompson was gunned down.
Same early morning hour in the precise location where 1 week prior, a 50-year-old father of two was assassinated. But something was missing. Any sign whatsoever of the tragedy that occurred right here and which has captivated the nation. We've all seen the crime scene that's been shown many times in the media. There it is.
Shouldn't you just be happy that you have something to criticize for the next 4 years? I don't even like him, but I think this is going to be the best 4 years in a really long time for humankind. We need it bad. What does that even mean? Do you think that I didn't spend the last 4 years criticizing this current administration, especially the last year? Trust me, American cruelty dished out by the American government is a bipartisan problem. Okay? So fear not. Maybe more liberals will pay attention. Maybe more liberals will pay attention to the awfulness of Trump and the awfulness of American government. Having said that, however, I don't even know if that will happen. I think more liberals are just going to tune out of politics entirely and try to avoid thinking about the violence that the American government dishes out. I do not foresee resistance liberalism happening in the same way that it did in the aftermath of the 2016 election failure. Because 2016 was out of the norm for many liberals. Some of them opened their eyes to the realities of America and decided to fight back against it. Others deluded themselves into thinking that this was a one-off or that this was Russian intervention at play, greatly overemphasizing a foreign adversary's powers in changing American political trajectory.